Purpose Highway is a space for discussions that drive connections toward people's highest purpose to build a better self and a better world. Join me for Season 1, where I start to uncover stories of entrepreneurs and thinkers that are making an impact. I'm your host, Scott Mason, and enjoy today's episode. When you're racing down the Purpose Highway, we want to make sure you're healthy and happy every step of the way. That's why we're proud to partner with It's NOLA, 21st century plant-based healthy granola snack bites made with real ingredients and audacious flavor. It's NOLA crafts small batch hand-rolled granola balls that are vegan, gluten-free, and naturally low in sugar. Locally made in Brooklyn, It's NOLA's delightful bites come in 3 flavors: luscious cranberry coconut, sassy mango masala, and dark, decadent, chewy chocolate. It's NOLA is available to both individual customers and for wholesale accounts at itsnola.com. That's ITSNOLA.com. Guests on this show are already enjoying this delicious snack. Check out It's NOLA's website for yourself and find out how good it is. Hello, everybody. It's Scott Mason revving up for another race down the Purpose Highway. And sitting next to me today in the front seat is Brian Reinbold. Brian, hold your breath, everyone. Brian is the architect of a successful career that spans business ownership, consulting, coaching, sales management, sales training, philanthropy, professional speaking, and broadcasting. As the host of Braveheart's radio show on Voice America Internet Radio, he's taking the thought leadership conversation to the next level, providing an outlet for experts to broaden their reach and find a target audience. As the mission specialist, he's elevating the profile of Bravehearts for Kids, a charity organization that supports the needs of pediatric cancer patients and their families. Brian is a founding partner of Zuvio.com, Perspective-Power.com, and Authentic Voice Media. He's also a 1997 inductee into the NFIB, National Federation of Independent Business Hall of Fame, a reflection of his advocacy for the small business owner. Brian, welcome to the show.
Scott, it is absolutely wonderful to be here, and thank you for that magnanimous introduction. You know, we have a connection with NASA at Bravehearts for Kids, and integral part of the NASA in Houston is the Johnson Space Center. And, you know, everything reminds me of a story. And there's a story of Lyndon Johnson, who the Space Center was named for. And he was given a really great introduction one time. And he said, you know, I wish my parents could be here to have heard that. My father would have appreciated it. And my mother would have believed it. So, yeah, I think my mom would have believed that one. But you know, moms are like that.
Well, yeah, so long as one person believes you.
That's right. Yeah.
So long as you've got that one person.
You know, we've had this conversation before to some extent. You know, the one person that believes in you, you know, that really, it's really best if it begins from within.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
absolutely.
That idea of that genuine voice, you know, that speaks to us quietly from within. And I think of it as a voice that speaks without words. And when we put the words into, or we put the understanding into words that we can express, you know, that's often difficult to express. And I think that's where there's a lot of confusion and consternation, perhaps, about even about religion, for example, because people that have something that speaks to their heart, and then they try to explain something that is not a verbal thing, it's a knowing thing, it's a feeling, it's an intense sense. You try to explain that to somebody, and said, "Oh, well, I understand. I'll write it down this way." And then maybe we should add that. And there's the old telephone conversation drill where you send the message around the room.
Loved it when I was a kid. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, a few generations down the road, it's like I wouldn't recognize what was being said there. Sometimes that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a fascinating phenomenon, and it's one that goes into a lot of the elements of the conversation that I'm so excited about having with you today. But I wanted to start out with a very particular question for you. Mm-hmm. During your interview prep, you said the following: "We live in the best time in the history of the world, the best place in the history of the world. It's good." No, it's better than that. It's great. And it's getting better, and it's getting better fast. It's exciting to be able to be here to witness this, to see it happen. And it's exhilarating to be a part of making it happen. Brian, in light of everything we as a culture have been through for the past year and a half, and in some places that we're still going through, why did you choose those particular words?
Well, that's my experience, Scott. And it's like when someone asks how you doing, and I say never better, and I'm sticking with it. And about a year ago, I started thinking, well, maybe people don't want to hear never better anymore. And I started having the conversation with people, and they almost invariably would say, man, that's what we need, some optimism. But the statement, we live in the best time in the history of the world, all of that, it's only the beginning of how I've, evolved that statement, or something like that. Right. And so, it's great, and it's getting better, and it's getting better fast, and it's exciting to be able to be here and watch it happen, but it's exhilarating to be able to be part of making it happen. Yet, many do not experience it this way, or they can't experience it this way. So it's my role as the mission specialist to uplift others, to help them find that voice of the genuine that comes from within, that can empower them to also experience this and be part of making it happen, and be part of this exhilaration.
How did you come into this mission for yourself?
I'll tell you that when I graduated from college, I moved to Bismarck, North Dakota.
Yes. I
had a business degree, and I was really perplexed that nobody had a vice presidency with a corner office just waiting for me. I had a degree, it's like maybe a little unrealistic on the expectations, but I got a job in outside sales, and I had a lot of free time. So when I joined the JCs, and the JCs had an event with the Hugh O'Brien Leadership Program way back then. And, they asked me if I would be, it was a leadership program, still is, for high school sophomores, to identify and develop leadership potential in young people. And started by the actor Hugh O'Brien, inspired by Albert Schweitzer, who I also claim to be a mentor of mine. And I went to a JC meeting, and they said, we got this program we're going to do. We're going to start doing it this year. And we need somebody to be a program manager. I said, well, sounds good. What do I do? And they said, well, you find the people to be the speakers in the program. So I thought, well, that sounds good. And I got involved with that. I did that for 3 years. And one of the most significant things that I remember about it is I went into the governor's office. And North Dakota is a small state, and I regard North Dakota as a small town with long streets. I tell that way sometimes. 600,000 people in the whole state. It's not even like a borough of New York, right?
Right.
Not even close. But I go into the governor's office, and I went up to the reception desk, and I said, could I see the governor? Because I thought the governor would be great as a keynote speaker for our event. And the receptionist looked at me, and she said, do you have an appointment? I said, no. She looked down at the schedule and looked back. She said, it'll be about 15 minutes.
What? I just have to say again, what?
Yeah, no, that's I don't know if things are still that easy access in the state government.
And did it really only take 15 minutes?
It was about 15 minutes, and Governor Olson comes out there at that point. And he apologizes for keeping me waiting. That's a small town with long streets.
Yeah, I was going to say Governor Cuomo here in New York might not be as polite. In fact, he might not be at all.
I was stopping to see somebody that I know in downtown Chicago, and first of all, you have to have an ID just to get in the building. Totally. And then you have an appointment? No. Well, you can't just wait here,
Let alone just for 15 minutes and then get an apology. Right. Wow. So how did your identification of your own purpose begin to develop from there?
Another great question, Scott. I don't know that I really identified my purpose until much later in life. I was just doing things because I wanted to do them, because it felt good to help, because I had the capability, I had the time, and I like to see things get done. One thing that really hit me was about 10 years ago, I read Malcolm Gladwell's The Tipping Point. Mm-hmm. And in The Tipping Point, he describes three types of people that make things reach the tipping point. One is a maven who knows everything about something. One is a salesperson that presents the idea. And the other one is a connector, which he described as someone who makes connections for the sheer joy of seeing good things happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was what I call an aha moment. It's like, oh my God, that's me. I've always just really loved making things happen for the making connections. Scott, you should meet, this kind of connection. And, that we met, through the virtues of a pure connector, Frank Agan. Yep. And, when I think of, my own, being a connector and being the mission specialist and always being a guy that was in the background helping make things work, making sure that, that the parade got done. Right. And then I meet guys like Frank. Holy cow. There's a guy that's in the big leagues in this area. So, thanks again, Frank, for putting us together. And,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the idea of being a connector and building connection, one of the things that's fascinating about Frank, who, by the way, was a guest on this show, his episode is outstanding. Mm-hmm. I will never forget it. I was a guest on another podcast, and out of the blue, I got an email from Frank. I didn't know him from Jack. And in that email, he said, I listened to your podcast episode and I really liked it. And here are some potential connections for you. Yeah. You should reach out to them, as well as gave links to these particular connections. I had never encountered such a thing in my life. Yeah. I honestly was floored. And in fact, it took me a little while to even respond to him because I was in such disbelief. I frankly didn't know what to say. Of course, I eventually did get back to him, and we have been best buddies ever since. But it goes as to something that I think is interesting about your philosophy that Frank was exhibiting, and that sometimes folks might be a little bit reticent about, in my experience, which is making that first step with connection, being that person to just sort of say, I will reach out to this random person who I don't know and try and do something nice and just see what happens. Amazing things have happened because of Frank doing that, not the least of which is you meeting me. Yeah. Is that something that you can relate to? And if so, was that part of who you always were? Or is it a skill that you needed to and wanted to work into?
I imagine it's something that I really needed to work on because I was dreadfully shy as a kid. As a little kid, I was really quiet, and that changed. I'm not sure exactly when that changed. I know that as a freshman in college, I flunked speech.
Really?
And I think it was the only college class I flunked. I wound up taking it over, and I think they expunged the F at that point.
Wow.
So so I was really shy and really quiet. Shy, because I think of shy as being reserved with fear. And reticent as being reserved with confidence, because people who are just they're quiet, but they're not quiet because they're afraid.
Right.
When they have something to say, it's usually pretty darn worth listening to. At the other end of the spectrum, you've got the outgoing with fear, and I call that cocky, and the outgoing with confidence, and I call that charisma. So. I was shy. I hope
it
I'm
is
not
hard. Yeah, I don't think anyone that listens to this or has ever talked to you would ever accuse you of being cocky. But I am curious to know exactly how you, as a formerly shy kid, ended up a professional broadcaster.
Yeah. Well, part of
Am
that
I the
is
only one that sees that as potentially an interesting story?
There's a lot of examples of people turning things around. I guess 30 some years ago, I went to work for NFIB. I had never been in outside sales. I did sales, of various things when I was a younger kid. But I got into outside sales, and I found out I was really good at it. Part of what I was really good at was I really focused on it. I was trained very well, and I loved the mission. I just absolutely loved the idea of working with small business owners and representing small business owners and fighting for the small business owner. And when I went to work for them, there was no internet. There was no way for them to find out what was going on in the world that affected them. So I was the resource for them. And I was this guy in western North Dakota. I would drive around to the small towns. I'd call on the small business owners, and I had a great time with that. Toastmasters. I joined Toastmasters. They had to give a lot of speeches, and I gave speeches and I always used notes until I joined the club in Batavia, Illinois. And I decided I am going to give my speeches without notes. And I started doing that. The very first speech, something called the icebreaker. It's a get to know you speech. And I opened up with my opening line, and I forgot what I was going to say next. And I remembered, and then I went on with the speech. And one of the great things about Toastmasters is they have an evaluator who tells you what you did right and what you could improve on. And the first thing he said was, "You have the pause down." And I realized that I literally couldn't make a mistake up there. And so I suppose it's within the last several years that I became much better at speaking off the cuff, impromptu, to the microphone in a situation like this, rather than the way that I had always given speeches with notes. Yeah. And I did a lot of that. Spoke to the Hugh O'Brien program many, many times. Yeah.
As we mentioned earlier, your show is called Bravehearts. Mm-hmm. And you define Braveheart as a person with the courage and the purpose to be of service to others.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you use the word courage there?
It's something where quite often it takes sacrifice to be of service to others. It's not necessarily always true. In fact, when I speak to youth groups, I give them the Albert Schweitzer example of happiness. When it is find a way to be of service to others, and I say that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to live like Albert Schweitzer or Mother Teresa. Larry Page and Sergey Brin found a way to serve the world by making the information of the world accessible to everyone. Mm-hmm. And Google has been something that has been financially extremely successful. Right. So it's not service does not necessarily mean something that is a challenge or well, that's not even the right way to put it either. It doesn't necessarily have to be something that is an ordeal. Mm-hmm. And I think that sometimes the idea that taking care of someone or helping with something is a chore is in our mind. Mm-hmm. And all kinds of philosophical opportunities there, Thich Nhat Hanh with the washing of dishes, the mindfulness of the moment in your life that you are spending cleaning this bowl. Yeah. And thinking about how you wish you were somewhere else is the loss of an opportunity to be mindful and joyful in the present.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. Every day I go for a walk throughout New York City, and it's an hour long. And I try and practice some gratitude during that walk. And sometimes I find myself grateful for things exactly of the nature that you're talking about. Mm-hmm. I noticed the other day, for instance, some moss between the cracks of some of the slabs of pavement on the sidewalk. Mm-hmm. And I thought, this is actually something to be grateful for. This is actually beautiful. And there were little flowers in there and they look nice. And if I were sitting around being annoyed about the fact that I might be tripping on it if I'm not careful, I might actually not have had the opportunity to take in that beauty or to be mindful of what was lovely that was there right in front of my face during that moment of potential irritation. With that in mind, then, do you believe that there is a relationship between gratitude and service, or gratitude and purpose?
I would say there has to be a relationship between gratitude and service and gratitude and purpose, Scott. Gratitude is the beginning of all good things. Gratitude is an abundance mentality. And I suppose it's difficult to even consider being of service if we fail to have an abundance mentality. Mm-hmm. Because how can I give to something else? How can I serve others when I'm not adequately served myself? And to understand that there is enough. Even the tiniest gratitude is something that can completely fill our conscious mind.
Yeah. One of the things I've observed, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about this, is that at least in the public space of discourse, everyone states that they value service. Mm-hmm. Everyone gives lip service to those who show it. Mm-hmm. But let's face it, we don't always elect those who show any commitment to service to be our leaders. Mm-hmm. We don't always buy from companies that have any concern for service whatsoever. At work, particularly for those that work in large organizations, as often as not, if maybe not more often than not, we do not promote people who have an ethic of service. Do you think that the cynicism that people might have is something that you can play or do play a role in resolving? In other words, if someone says, people who care about service, they don't get ahead. People who care about service, no one rewards them. No one thanks them. Why should I even care about giving service? Do you see yourself as having a role in helping them to move in a direction that supports a service-oriented life?
One of the ideas that I really like is the idea that when we do what we are best at, and when we do what we love, when those two things intersect, we're doing something that I say that makes you come alive.
Yeah. And
there's another favorite thought from the past. Howard Thurman said, "Don't ask what the world needs. Instead, ask what makes me come alive. Then go do that." And I think that what happens then is when we do what makes us come alive, what we're best at, what brings us great joy. How could it be other than the world is attracted to that? I think that's where, don't ask what the world needs. It will come to you when you do what makes you come alive. I believe that if everybody did that, we wouldn't need armies.
Yeah, totally. And there would certainly be a lot less misery in the world. That being said, those who work in corporate America or for massive organizations in other sectors that may suck the souls out of them day after day may feel like they don't even know how to find what makes them come alive inside. They might not even be able to conceptualize after a certain point what it is to be alive inside. What would you say to someone who's experiencing that?
Well, I think, Scott, I could tell them, I know how you feel. I've been there. I know the feeling of waking up and wondering, why am I here? What reason, what reason is there for this? Or I'm stuck in the snowball. The way I think of it, the movie scene where you got a giant snowball and it's rolling downhill and it's gathering everyone up and they're packed in tight, rolling downhill, and they can't break out of it. But we can break out of it. And I think what would I advise them? I think the best thing I could do is just to offer the way that I found my authentic voice, and that quiet inner voice, that voice of the genuine, so to speak. And I was walking, and like you said, walking around the city for an hour at a time. I would walk, and I do that now. I walk. I don't wear a headset. I just have my thoughts with me, and then when I do hear that quiet inner voice or authentic voice speaking to me, then it's something that I can listen to.
When it has come to doing that in order to find that connection to what brings you alive inside, how have you experienced knowing it? Has it been a thunderbolt? Has it been something that's gradually sort of crept up on you? Has it been something else?
The thunderbolt is something I call the aha moment, and it goes something like this: "Oh my God, I knew that." I knew that. It was in here all along. And that feeling that is a level of knowing, that is, it's beyond faith, because it's something, when we realize something, and it's like, oh my, that's in here, that's been in here all along. That's where, mentoring someone or, working with a really great coach, when they are able to ask the questions that bring out that, and you say, oh yeah, I get that. And it's like, if you tell someone something, it's a different thing. But if you ask them and they, draw it out of them, and they discover it for themselves, I think that's far more powerful.
That goes as to a challenge a lot of people in leadership positions face. Mm-hmm. And that is the sense of loneliness, particularly as you scale the top of large organizational life's executive ladder, or if you're an entrepreneur. And you have your own business that you are the head of. There may be other people relying on you, but you may not be able to have anyone in that organization who you can have a trusted, honest conversation with, particularly in moments of extreme vulnerability or self-doubt. Otherwise, that self-doubt or that vulnerability could in fact then lessen their commitment to your organization's mission. All these other parades of horrible that could conceivably happen. In situations like that, I have seen HR executives or speakers or business consultants recommend that such individuals talk to a coach. Mm-hmm. And usually, or at least frequently, the response to that is negative. They sometimes view the suggestion that they see a coach as a negative statement about their performance, as opposed to an opportunity.
Yeah.
Do you agree then that coaches really are an opportunity? And if so, why should someone who is in the position of having coaching suggested to them not want to take that as a negative statement about their performance?
That's a great question again, Scott. It seems to me that there's a mindset, we'll call it. I don't know if it's a personality type, but a mindset I've encountered when I would go to tell someone something, and the response would be, "Why would you want to tell me that? If I didn't know it, it doesn't need to be known." And
wow,
there's an arrogance there that says, I can't learn anything because I know it all, and so, I think there's a certain amount of humility that someone needs to have a coach, but you also have to understand Tom Brady has a coach. Mm-hmm. LeBron James has a coach. Mm-hmm. Tiger Woods is a coach. They're doing that to hone the best of the game. That might be the way to present it to someone at a high level. Say, that we're going to do this for you because you are really valuable, mm-hmm. and we're going to provide this for you, So
love it.
It's that sort of thing.
One of the things that is striking about your LinkedIn page, which by the way, I have to say is one of the most beautifully written ones I've ever encountered. It's really worth the read and very inspiring. In your headline, you state that what you do is leverage the power of story to inspire mm-hmm. and empower. What would you say to those who feel they might not even have a story, or they might not have a story that's worth hearing?
Wow. In my experience, everyone has a book inside of them. And it seems like the people I associate with all have written it. They've all written at least one, mm-hmm, and my wife said I can't have any more friends that that have written books, because I've got a whole shelf full of books written by friends. But I think that might be the conversation to have with that individual. Say, everyone has a story to write. What would be what's your best story? What's your best chapter? And to begin with that. A shout out to J.D. Gershbein. J.D. is a guy that really does some remarkable things in the LinkedIn space, and he and I have had a good professional relationship. He helped me rewrite the LinkedIn profile.
Right. Now, yet another example of working with a coach to help up your game. Yeah. I worked with a coach on my LinkedIn profile as well. It was worth every penny.
Yep.
How did you get involved with Brave Hearts for Kids?
That's a question I love, because in September of 2008, I was at the street fair in Bismarck, North Dakota. And you know how there's certain kinds of foods you expect at a street fair, like turkey legs and corn on the cob and funnel cakes. And there was a booth that had a sign that said Buffalo Berry Crepes, $3. And I thought, man, I don't even know what a buffalo berry is, but it sounds pretty good. It turns out it's kind of like a wild blueberry, from the high plains of North Dakota, Montana, out in the Badlands. Well, I said, yeah, let me have one of those. And there was a voice at the back of the booth, and turned around and he said, hey, I recognize that voice. And this was my old friend, Adrian Jacobs. And Adrian has been a friend for something like 40 years now, I think. And he would always talk about his son, Jeremy, like this: my son, the rocket scientist. And I always thought that what he was speaking metaphorically. Must be a really good student, And it turns out Jeremy is one of the people that runs NASA down in Houston.
Wow. So he literally was a rocket scientist. He's
a rocket scientist, yeah. So Jeremy and his wife Amy have a little daughter, who, when she was 13 months old, Ava had brain cancer, and she was treated and cured. And part of the treatment was a 3-dimensional proton radiation therapy that was developed at the Fermi Labs in Batavia, Illinois. So they started the organization out of gratitude for their daughter's life and health. And when they were selling Buffalo Berry Crepes, the organization was 3 weeks old.
Wow.
And so I'd known these guys from the very beginning, and I'd been doing this, what I now describe as mission specialist work, helping figure out where they're going and helping make sure that the trip gets accomplished, that kind of thing. Been doing that, for 40 years. And we sat down and had a conversation about how to set up a pancake breakfast, how to do a spaghetti dinner. And they did that kind of thing for about 6 years. And then I'd been involved with them as an advisor and a friend for all that time. And in 2014, Brave Hearts for Kids became a public charity, 501c3. And Sherry and I were asked to join the board, and we did. And she became the executive director after a couple of years on board. I took the title mission specialist because I liked the connection with NASA. I thought that was kind of cool. And then, after that is when it really hit me that I've been doing this my whole life, helping people figure out what their vision is, how to get there, and making sure the trip gets accomplished. Or the same thing with organizations. And so that's how we got involved with Brave Hearts for Kids. And then Brave Hearts Radio came from that, because I do a workshop called the Idea Hierarchy, where we do brainstorming, and we take every good idea, every well-intentioned idea is a good idea. So we met with the Brave Hearts for Kids board. We had 900 good ideas.
Wow.
3 brainstorming sessions on a Friday morning, and by Saturday we had worked it down to 3 that we decided to, up the scale to turn them into great ideas.
Wow.
And those are the ideas that we put our passion, our talent, and our love into.
And what differentiates between a great idea and a merely good idea? And what's the process for moving from one to the other?
Well, that's a good idea is any well-intentioned idea. The great ideas are the ones that we do put our effort into. Mm-hmm. And like I say, our talent, our passion, our love, we put that into you got to pick some. In fact, you kind of can only work on one thing at a time. Yeah. So we picked 3. One was a mobile app for the smartphone, so that families can find resources that are close by to them. It's a geographically based app, and so people from around the country can find something that's close by to them, whether it's whatever it is for their child. And there's thousands of people that provide services and organizations that provide services to families with kids with cancer. The second one was a connection with the National Day Calendar. And April 28th is National Bravehearts Day, and we have a terrific relationship with the people at the National Day Calendar, and then the final one was what if we expanded the idea of what it means to be a Braveheart to include anyone with the courage and purpose to be of service to others. And so we thought, that'd allow us to work with other organizations. We could create synergy. We could, we could work off the idea that doing good anywhere does good everywhere. If I help, some organization that rescues dogs. Yeah. That doesn't hurt Bravehearts for Kids. It makes the world better. Yeah. And that helps Bravehearts for Kids. So that's our philosophy. Yeah. And, after, once we had done that, I recalled that a fellow named Winston Price at Voice America and I had been in touch at one time. We had planned to do a radio show called Perspective Power. And one of my very favorite topics is perspective. It kind of depends on how you look at it. I wish you could see things my way. I wish I could see things your way. And how perspective is such an important part of our human communication. Anyway, I called Winston back and I said, I think we're ready for a show. And that became Bravehearts Radio.
Love it. Absolutely love it. What is your vision for the future of Bravehearts Radio?
Wow. Well, Bravehearts Radio is we're working on syndication at this point to be into broadcast stations nationwide.
Amazing.
I want to expand into television. And so we've been broadcasting the show, the radio show on Facebook Live, and we've been doing our, the show, interviews and conversations by, Zoom video since, October last year. So I've got a lot of, video resource, stored up there. But the next step for me is something I call the cooking show. The cooking show is the idea that as divided and divisive as things can be in our world, we like to eat each other's food. And so I think
do we not?
cooking and food can bring people together, and it does. And
Brian, it has been great taking a ride with you today. How can people find out more about you and how can they connect with you? Because I know after hearing this, they're going to want to.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Braveheartsradio.org has all the shows, all the shows that are live at 3:00 on Monday, 3:00 Central Time on Mondays. And that's on the Voice America Variety Network. But braveheartsradio.org has all the shows, including an exceptionally good show from May 10th, where Scott Mason of Scott Mason's Purpose Highway was my guest. So thanks for being there with that.
For everyone tuning in, if you liked this episode, be sure to subscribe and leave a review on Apple or comment on YouTube. Brian, everyone else, I will see you next time for another trip down the Purpose Highway. When you're racing down the Purpose Highway, we want to make sure you're healthy and happy every step of the way. That's why we're proud to partner with It's NOLA, 21st century plant-based healthy granola snack bites made with real ingredients and audacious flavor. It's NOLA crafts small batch hand-rolled granola balls that are vegan, gluten-free, and naturally low in sugar. Locally made in Brooklyn, It's NOLA's delightful bites come in 3 flavors: luscious cranberry coconut, sassy mango masala, and dark, decadent, chewy chocolate. It's NOLA is available to both individual customers and for wholesale accounts at itsnola.com. That's ITSNOLA.com. Guests on this show are already enjoying this delicious snack. Check out It's NOLA's website for yourself and find out how good it is. Thank you for listening to today's episode. Join our community today at purposehighway.com and subscribe to get notified when new episodes go live. Scott Mason, checking out.